Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective.
Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Sharlee Dixon. My guest today is Laura Elorza. Laura is a clinical psychologist who helps people break free from autopilot living and discover the difference between fleeting pleasure and genuine happiness. She works with Unconscious Moderation, a transformative platform that combines hypnotherapy, reflective journaling, and movement practices to help people transform their relationship with alcohol without shame or labels. With experience working with individuals from diverse backgrounds, Laura guides people to understand their unconscious behavioral patterns and build sustainable change. She holds a clinical psychology degree from Universidad EAFIT and a master's with psychodynamic focus from Universidad del Norte, bringing both academic rigor and human-centered warmth to her work. We're excited to have Laura with us today to explore how unconscious patterns influence our relationship with alcohol, the journey from coping through drinking to conscious moderation, and how her app, Unconscious Moderation, uses hypnotherapy, journaling, and movement to help people build lasting, mindful habits and discover true happiness. Laura, thank you so much for coming to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you're originally from Colombia, correct? And you spent your career helping people break out of autopilot living. What first inspired you to focus on unconscious behavioral patterns and emotional healing?
Okay, so yes, I have always been in the path of listening to people. So I guess psychology was always there in my path. I do believe that we are 95% unconscious behavior. Most of our time we are habits and we are about our routine. And sometimes with our routines, we get stuck. We get stuck on cycles and we get stuck on different downward spirals that we know that they're not right for us, but maybe we don't know really quite how to fix it. And it happens a lot. Sometimes it is about a glass of wine, or sometimes it's about food or about social media. And we have those habits that really we can't kick. And it's not just about what should we be doing, but what we want to do, what's actually good for our life. So it's mostly about connecting with your purpose rather than the motivation. Motivation kind of fades away over time. For example, now that the goals for the next year are coming up and the first 15 days are awesome. You go ahead and you follow all those goals. But after a while, motivation fades. So when you connect with a deeper purpose and when you connect with a deeper purpose and discipline, I think that's the main thing. And when we understand the unconscious behavior patterns, we understand why we perceive the way we do and how can we change that. So it's how to kick up the autopilot.
Gotcha. Awesome. Awesome. And you mentioned drinking as one of those things. I'm assuming it happens in Colombia and other countries as well as it does here in America. We use alcohol as one of those things to celebrate with while we're having a good time, spending time with our friends and family, but also when we're hurting, we've experienced something that's unpleasant, or even in an everyday as a wind down type of activity. Again, something that's probably unconsciously just there for us and has been for some time. What helped you see the connection between emotional wounds and alcoholic habits?
Well, the thing is, alcohol is a very powerful numbing agent. And it has been normalized as a way of celebrate, as a way to connect with people, and as a way to just decompress, as you were saying, or just wind down from a day. And because alcohol can give us all this feel good neurochemicals. So it gives us dopamine, it gives us serotonin. But the thing is, it creates a temporary relief, yes, but it also, in fact, leaves us a little bit empty since they were like substance made and they were not originated within ourselves. And what I started to see in my work is that a lot of people were drinking to avoid feeling something or to feel something differently. So maybe they were feeling lonely or maybe they were feeling anxious, or maybe they didn't want to process certain feelings that they've been keeping in a box far away from their conscious perception. And alcohol becomes this band-aid over this bullet wound that helps them keep a little bit of balance, or so they perceive, right? Because at the end of the day, relationships suffer, like with others, and the most important relationship, which is the one that we have with ourselves, also suffers when we use this coping mechanism such as alcohol. So, and what I said, this is not just about alcohol. It could be also about food, or it could be about shopping or social media, or the endless scrolling on the phone. We use this as coping mechanisms, not to sit with the uncomfortable feeling. We are now not only like the new generations, because we always say, oh, the new generations can't handle frustration. Everyone. We are in a world that it's difficult to handle frustration. So we kind of reach to whatever can get us out of this spiral. But the thing is, we gotta feel it. We gotta feel those uncomfortable feelings and that frustration. So alcohol has been there, and it creates that chemical feel good relief. But at the end, well, once this spike comes down, because it will, what did we get from it? That's the big question that we ask ourselves.
Right. Right. Completely agree with you. Once those numbing effects have worn off, you still left with those same feelings that you had that you tried to get rid of. You still have to sit with them or figure out what to do next or how to cope with those feelings.
Exactly. And that's how everyone goes back into alcohol or back into the routine to try and like numb it out and find that balance. But I'm saying this as like air quotes balance, because at the end, it's not creating wellness, and it's not creating connection. And that's us human beings. We seek that. We seek connection.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. So can you talk to us for a minute about the start of unconscious moderation, how the app came to be, and about the Dry 30 challenge?
Okay. So for us, it started as, yes, like dry 30, because we thought, okay, there has been studies that shown that even stopping the drinking for 30 days can reset your body in multiple ways. Like your blood pressure would get so much better, your sleep architecture would improve, and different physical aspects can improve. But as we kept doing this, we saw, okay, maybe after 30 days, we can go into 60 days, more than abstinence into moderation. Most of the people, like 65 to 70% of the people, don't see their relationship with alcohol as a lifelong abstinence process. It's more as a moderation process. And we gotta realize that every single human being is wired differently. Some people thrive on clear boundaries. Some people thrive on, this is my last glass ever, and no is no, and I'm not going to negotiate that. And that's wonderful for a lot of people. But most of the people really see it like that hard stop creates a deprivation and creates a resistance. So when we talk about moderation, it's about setting a clear goal for the night. So you don't have to negotiate during the night, because you have a clear goal. You have an intention. And when you connect with the goal and the intention, you can definitely start to moderate. So that's how it started. Then a second month about moderation, and then a third month about practicing this new tools and this new coping mechanisms to, I don't know, maybe go out on a party or celebrate with someone, but just have one glass, not, oh, let's see how the night evolves. No, have clear boundaries for yourself. So it started as a way of, okay, let's reboot our systems, let's reboot our bodies. And then we thought maybe it can be something that could be a lifelong choice of moderation rather than abstinence.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, like you mentioned, people see drinking and celebrating with people, and taking away those things creates a level of resistance. Like, well, maybe I won't have friends to spend time with. And what happens when those things are gone? Or maybe I'm a young person, I'm 20 and I'm not drinking anymore. And then that makes me weird and I'm so different than
Mhm.
everybody else. But being able to introduce moderation and knowing what those limits are is important in the beginning. And so this idea is quite interesting to me. Something that you mentioned in the beginning, or even in the name of the app, is unconscious. Because so much of our behaviors come from just parts of ourselves that we have, habits that we've created, or pieces of us that aren't necessarily healed just yet. How does the app help people step off that autopilot and into more conscious choices?
Okay. So for us, the main thing to like step from autopilot is to start asking yourself what habits or what routines are not serving us anymore. What is not serving me to my purpose? Or I do believe we have purposes. It's not just one. It's we have a lot of things and a lot of wishes and a lot of desires. So knowing that and understanding and recognizing like maybe alcohol is not serving me the way it used to be. And so for us, the main three things that we talk about this app, and these are tools that we want to give the people who use the app, are movement, meditation, and journaling. So for let's start like with movement. There's a thing that someone very dear to me said once. It's like move a muscle, change a thought. And it's really beautiful because you actually through movement create those feel good neurochemicals that you actually activate with drinking or when you're on your phone doom scrolling.
Yeah.
You actually activate them naturally through movement. So when you start seeing movement as a way to feel good and to change your perception and to get oxygen to your brain and have that rush, you will start choosing differently because maybe movement can get you to those purposes and those desires that you have. Then we also have hypnotherapy or meditation. So a lot of people think that hypnotherapy, and it has a bad reputation. I'm not gonna lie, because a lot of people think it's like you're gonna start clucking like a chicken or do something weird.
Yeah.
And it really is not. It's all about being in a meditation state that a lot of journals and studies have been made. So getting into that meditation state that you are open for suggestions. So it's not like someone is taking control of your life or taking the driver wheel, but it's more of like inserting those questions of maybe alcohol has been used as a numbing agent, or maybe it has been used as a way for you to not face certain emotions. And when you're in those meditation states, you actually start thinking about it, not in a way that, oh, someone told me that this is what I'm doing, more in a, oh, maybe this could be it. Maybe this is the reason, and you start digging deeper into that origin of why you're using a substance to create a better feeling. And then you have the journaling, which the unconscious doesn't show up in our learned language. In English, for example, the unconscious shows up in signals, in symbols, and journaling can actually help you understand that. So when we journal about our dreams, or when we journal about, or when we write down, I feel overwhelmed, maybe understanding that phrase of I feel overwhelmed could be your unconscious telling you, oh, I need to set boundaries, or I need to seek for connection, or understanding that deeper need so you can actually address the need and not numb it. So we use those three main things in the app for you to understand a little bit more about the unconscious mind and how you are wired. So you can understand your behaviors and choose actively different.
Very nice. And so I'm curious on a large scale, like you mentioned, everyone's motivations are different. How we process information is different. How we see ourselves and the things that we've been through is different. How is the app, how is it able to be customized for each person that uses it?
So what we do is like the meditation or the journaling, it gives you a prompt, right? You go as deep as you would want to. And maybe the first days are a little bit tougher because
Mm-hmm.
you haven't experienced those tools and you've never dealt with sitting down with that question and trying to write something about it or trying to feel something different. But as the days go farther, you start to build your own path and understand better the ways and those perceptions that you have around alcohol. The thing is, we have attachment styles and we have traumas, and when I say traumas, let's not think about like something devastating. Trauma really is how we perceive the situation. And maybe as a 15-year-old, you saw that alcohol got rid of your anxiety in parties. So now you started associating alcohol equals being more social,
Mm-hmm.
right? And understanding that that was the moment that you made that association. And maybe it's like, well, okay, I'm a 30-year-old or a 35-year-old person that can choose differently and can think of it differently. So it's all about what you want to make for your journey, and you tailor make it to yourself and how deep you want to go into the work.
Nice. And I laughed when you mentioned that hypnotherapy gets this bad rap, because generally before I started working on this podcast and have started talking to people more about wellness and alternative ways to reach it, hypnotherapy was like the stuff that you see on TV and they make you do different things with your body. And like you say, cluck like a chicken. Or I even participated in a hypnotherapy class, and it was to help people stop smoking cigarettes or to lose weight or something like that many
Mhm.
years ago. And I don't know that it worked necessarily for me. So I am curious, what makes it effective for reprogramming the deep patterns? Is it because you're doing something on a daily basis? Or talk to me more about how hypnotherapy works.
Okay. So hypnotherapy, of course, has a bad rep, and a lot of people come to it very with a lot of boundaries and with a lot of restrictions towards it,
Yeah.
more in a way that, oh, I don't want anyone else to get into my mind and tell me what to think or what to do. Right. And at the end of the day, hypnotherapy, it's a state of focused attention. And it's like mindfulness or meditation because it is that moment that you are so calm that you are open to think differently and that you are open to understand or perceive differently. So there are three things that happen when you are in during a hypnotic state or a deep meditation state, which is your worry center quiets down and the executive control strengthens your body connection. And then you have a deep absorption of what you're being surrounded with. What that means is those automatic thoughts of, I need a drink to relax, and everyone will judge me if I don't drink, they quiet down when you are in this state. And they create what hypnotherapy does, it creates a space between the urge and your identity. Because that's the main thing. A lot of people think that the urge or the craving, it's their identity.
Mm.
And what we need is not, I say this a lot, and it's like we gotta create the space between the situation and the reaction, because when it's situation and you react, it's immediate. But when there's a situation and you act, you give that space for you to process and to understand so you can act and choose. Reaction is without choosing. So hypnotherapy does that. It creates that mental state that you can always come back throughout your day, or when you're in a situation where people offer you a drink, you can remind yourself about that state of calmness
Mm.
so you can create a choice for yourself. So that's the main thing about hypnotherapy.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Are you preparing for a licensure exam in psychology, social work, marriage and family therapy, counseling, or behavioral analysis? AATBS is here to help. We have been supporting behavioral and mental health students to prepare for their licensure exams for more than 45 years, working with over 1 million students to succeed on test day and move on to the next step in their career. With products ranging from comprehensive courses to quiz banks and delivered live online, self-study online, and in print, AATBS has test prep solutions that meet every student's needs and learning styles. Visit us today at aatbs.com. That's aatbs.com and use promo code BHT15 to save 15% off your next purchase.
That's very cool. Thank you for the way that you explained that to me. I have not necessarily heard it in that way before. Thank you for that. And so can you talk me through how the app actually works? I know we mentioned starting with a dry 30 or just not necessarily a full elimination, but trying to bring it down as much as possible and then figure out where those limits are for you. But what does each month look like after that, from the initial drinking reset to building those long-term moderation habits?
Yeah, of course. So the app works on a 90-day journey. So every day you have the works of meditation, movement, and journaling. We also have access to other resources. For example, we've got masterclass for everyone who joins the app that you can actually, instead of doom scrolling, you can access this and learn something new. So you are creating this new habit of you using that, for example, morning coffee time to improve in yourself. And the first month is about setting that foundation. So we ask the people not to drink for the clarity, not as a punishment and not as a restrictive thing, more into a connect with your body. The thing that happens a lot is once we develop language, we stop being in tune with our body. But our body was our first language, our first way to connect to the world. So setting that month for you to connect with your body, it's very, very important. And this is where you create the space between the impulses, the craving, and your choices. And this is also when you start experiencing a little bit of forgiveness and gratitude, because those are the two feelings that can be felt by themselves. The rest of feelings, they're all mixed together, but forgiveness and gratitude are the two feelings that you really can experience just by themselves. Then a month 2, we start talking about moderation. So moderation becomes an option for people who want to moderate, but it's not a requirement. So they use the self-hypnosis or the meditation before any social situation.
Okay.
That you might drink or you might be faced with a drinking environment. So the person can actually choose their goal for the evening. So it's like, okay, I'm going out and I'm going to have one drink. And I'm going to have a purpose because tomorrow I have an early workout class. Or tomorrow I'm connecting with this friend. Or tomorrow I want to wake up with a hangover. So it's setting an intention. And
Gotcha.
it creates a big shift from that autopilot of like the drinks kept coming and I kept drinking, more of like I am connecting with my purpose. And then the
Gotcha.
third month is about reinforcement. So it becomes, what happens is a lot of people think that only in 21 days you build a habit. The thing is, it's not real. We gotta keep on reinforcing those new patterns. Our brain is very flexible and can learn, but we gotta reinforce. So
Okay.
this is the reinforcement period. We start saying that this month is where your brain rewired and it becomes a little bit of a second nature, but you're still making the choices and you're still making those neural circuits a little bit stronger. So they can become your default, right? So what we want is that by month 3, making the choice will be your default, not something that drains you and takes a lot of energy out of you. So that's the 90-day journey that we have. through the app.
Okay. And so is there work or things for folks in the app after that initial 90-day journey? Is this something that people can continue to access those sessions, the hypnotherapy, movement, journaling, are those things, can they continue, or what happens after that 90 days?
After those 90 days, you graduate from the program, but the program is always there for you. Like you
Okay.
can always come back and go through the meditations. For example, I love a guided meditation. I would rather have a guided meditation. So whenever I have the chance, the headphones in and meditate. That's great. So you still have access to that. And we still have a ton of free content on our YouTube channel where you can access those guided meditations. Or if you want to learn more about like the psychology and the neuroscience behind it, we also have long videos to talk about different topics that we mentioned through the 90-day journey. So it's not like, 90 days and you're left alone. No, you're
Yeah.
part of a community and you're building that community. And we're creating those forums for people to keep on joining and keep on learning.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Because like you said, people think that after that initial 21-day habit creation type thing, it's over and you don't need to continue to work on it. And that's not necessarily how it works in real life and practice, for sure.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. And
Yeah.
as I said, like we're social creatures, we need community. So having a community that backs you up, I think
Yes.
it's so powerful. And
Absolutely.
it keeps you on your purpose and on the track that you set yourself to.
Okay, Laura. So you talk about the difference between the dopamine driven pleasure. So things that we get pleasure from, like that doom scrolling or having a drink or those types of habits, and true happiness. How does the app help us distinguish between those two?
So there's a main thing that I think it's such a good question to understand the difference. So dopamine and serotonin, they're both chemicals that we have in our brains and that we create, right? So we can create them artificially or naturally. So, for example, when we drink, we create those two neurochemicals, dopamine and serotonin, artificially. So it creates a spike and it creates also a downfall. And that's where it creates the other day you have that sense of where am I? What do I connect with? Because it was such a high and such a low that you are left without any of those neurochemicals. So what happens with true happiness, it's that it doesn't spike, right? It doesn't spike like the pleasure creates. It is a natural wave. It comes up and down, but it's naturally created by your body. One of the main ways that you can create it is through movement. Actually, I read something that was so beautiful, and it's through hugging people you care about. That's how you create happiness and you create connection. While pleasure, it's the thought of, I want more. Like I had the rush and I need more. And it's that constant look for rush and constant look for the next hit that creates a downward spiral. So you would need more dopamine to feel exactly the same. So you would have to do more to try and feel at the same level. When we're talking about true happiness and naturally created neurochemicals, we're talking about your brain knows how to react to that and to those levels. So that's why we create that distinction between pleasure and happiness, especially when it's artificially made and naturally created. And through the app, we give you those tools to create it naturally. It could be through a walk, like during an afternoon walk where you get sun and sun exposure, especially in winter. We all need that throughout the winter times. But also it could be through hugging or connecting with a friend rather than an outside thing coming in. It could be alcohol or what I said. It could be, for example, the short content videos. Those give us dopamine rushes every 6 seconds. And our brain is not able to process that amount.
Completely agree with you. And so one of the things I'm curious about, we talked a bit about the journaling, we've talked about meditation and some of the hypnotherapy, but we haven't really discussed much of the movement. You mentioned here some of that movement could be taking a walk or spending a bit of time outside in the sun. What are some of those other movement type of practices that the app introduces on a daily basis?
Okay, so we create like the app. It's really for anyone who wants to start the movement journey. So it can start from legs up the wall because it
Okay.
creates a shift, and your brain is like, oh, maybe I'm in a different position that I should be right now. It creates a shift, it creates a lot of blood circulation, and it's easy. Anyone can do legs up the wall. And then you can be introduced by different movements. So hip openers or a little bit of a stretch, of a light stretch. And then you move upwards into your own personal likes when you're moving and when you're working out. The threshold for entering is very low. Anyone can start
Okay.
this movement. We do believe that when we connect with our bodies, we're connecting with something very primal in us. As I said, like we had our bodies before we had our language. So for connecting with our bodies and understanding how our body feels and what it needs, it's one of the main things. So for example, when at night you feel the craving of like, oh, it's wine o'clock, because it's a lot of people say that it's wine
Mhm.
o'clock, and maybe check in with your body. Do you really need wine, or do you need a light stretch, or do you need to sweat it out, or you need to go for a walk or for a run? It will create the same chemicals and the same rush that
Yeah.
alcohol creates, but you create it for yourself. So it's something that your brain can handle. That is why we incorporate movement in
Okay.
the daily activities.
Got you. I mean, it makes complete sense as someone who has used alcohol in a moment, like in the evenings, like, oh, not necessarily 1 o'clock, but maybe I should have a little drink to release the day. It's been a tough
Mhm.
day. This will help. I do wonder what changes would be made in my brain if I was to say, you know what, maybe I should do a little yoga instead, or maybe I can do a little journaling instead of choosing that just unconscious, let me just do something that I've always done or that what society says is acceptable to do to release the stress of a day.
For sure. And what you're saying, it's understanding the real need underneath. So
Mhm.
it could be connection, or it could be decompression. As you said, like I had a stressful day and I feel like I need to decompress. So which are other tools that I can develop to decompress or to find relief? So it's something that you can access at a moment's notice, because sometimes wine or alcohol is not available to us. So are we sitting in those uncomfortable feelings, or do we want to process them and release them? Because that's what feelings are. You are not your feelings. They're like waves. They come and they go.
There you go. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, in your clinical work, you've mentioned that people often know what's good for them. So, the problem isn't necessarily the what, but it's the why not. So, what, in your opinion, what hidden payoffs or unconscious resistance keep people stuck in old habits?
So the main thing about the payoffs or the hidden payoffs, and this might be tough to understand or to hear out, but it's the truth is that the hidden payoffs keeps us stuck, and it requires less mental energy to be this way than to create a new pathway. And our unconscious mind, sometimes it's like we deem it as, oh, it's bad and it keeps us stuck and it's bad for us. No, it is trying to keep us safe. The unconscious mind is trying to keep us safe because we have a mental pool of energy, right? The same way as we have, for example, when we eat, we have levels of energy that are replenished once we eat, and we start using that energy and they come down. The same thing happens with mental energy. So it requires less energy to keep you the same that you are. So your unconscious doesn't want you to be spending a lot of energy because it would be challenging and draining, and it takes a
Mhm.
lot of work. And people can be comfortable in their discomfort. And we live in a society that we understand that effort is the same as sacrifice and suffering, and it is not. Effort is being active. Suffering and sacrifice are totally different things.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest breakthroughs that we have in the program, to understand that effort doesn't need to feel like punishment. And it can actually feel like a relief, and it can feel like a coming home back to my body, back to myself. And what I said, unconscious mind loves efficiency, and it wants to keep us safe, and it wants to keep us familiar. But sometimes familiar isn't safe, and it can be painful. So when we understand that staying the same also costs us, maybe we are willing to be a little bit more risk forward into, okay, I will explore what I don't know, but I will probably get so much more than what I'm having right now, and actually gain something from it. So that's the main thing that I really do believe about hidden payoffs is it's comfortable, but it costs us.
Absolutely. And I really like how what you said about effort. We do, in our minds, we have put the two together, the effort, and there's some level of deep sacrifice because I've worked hard to get this, and that's what the effort means. But really, effort can be something that brings you back to your body. I really like those ideas that you merged there. I really like that. So in your work with diverse clients, what are some universal themes or emotions, feelings even, that come up again and again when people try to change their drinking patterns?
So the first thing is that whenever they have a slip, whenever they're like, oh, I drank again, they can be very tough on themselves. We have an inner critic that, like, it's insane. And I think everyone listening, and you and I, we can relate to that. Like, our inner critic is tough. And sometimes one of the main things that I say is like how you're talking to yourself. Would you talk that same way to someone you care about, to your best friend, or to your sibling, or to your kids? And probably there would be no chance that you would talk the same way. So that sense of failure, and when we say, oh, I slipped, I fail, it's no, it's I'm coming back to my old unconscious patterns. So how can I be conscious about them? It's always about what's the viewpoint that we're seeing this process at. And we're going to have slips, and we're going to have moments when we feel like, oh, like I would like a drink right now. And that's why we talk about moderation and not complete abstinence. So, and I see a lot of people using like alcohol as a social lubricant, or to numb emotions, or to find relief from a stressful day. And that's why we talk about, okay, how can we find other different coping skills to handle those situations, and to understand that your wiring or how you associated things, maybe it's not serving you anymore. Because I do believe that if it starts bothering you, it's because it stopped serving you. So doing the work helps you change that perception. We just got to go back into the programming, delete the old programming, recode it, and run it over and over again. And there will be bugs in that coding, and we would have to keep on coming back until there are no bugs anymore. And we don't need to update it, but it takes a while.
Absolutely. So being able to have access to those resources on the app and your website, I'm sure comes in handy once those slip ups happen, because it's going to happen sometimes. Yeah.
Of course. And you will see that through the app, and the unconscious moderation team will never like come from a place of judgment, or from a place of, oh, you slipped and that's bad, you're doing it wrong. Of course not. Like, we understand we are humans, and we do value the idea of you coming back and saying, okay, I'm starting again. I'm going to make the effort again. And that's what we want to focus on, that effort, rather than I drank again.
Got you. So we love a good story here, look, good success story on behavioral health today. So do you have a success story or a transformation even that really illustrates what conscious moderation can look like in someone's life?
So we actually have the unconscious moderation team. I think can speak highly of this because we all tried it. We've done the journey and we've done the process. And some of us we're like month two or beginning of month one, but we are all trying to get through the program. And it's beautiful because you are deeply connected with yourself. And since we're doing it all together, we have that sense of community of like, oh, I went to a party today or I went to a graduation and they were celebrating and a champagne was popped. But I was able to say no and I was able to come up with a clever, funny way to say no to the person who was bugging me to drink and asking me to drink or to toast. So I think that's a thing that we truly believe in because we've done the work and we've experienced it ourselves. And one of the main things is that once you're doing this daily and doing the journaling, the meditation, the movement, and getting all these resources, you make an informed choice of, okay, if I'm going to drink, I know my boundaries and I know what happens to my body and I understand how my body reacts when I drink. So I'm doing this conscious choice of I'm having 1 glass, 2 glasses, and that's it. Because we're not coming from, oh, we're in a social event. Let's drink.
We have to. Mhm.
Exactly. It comes from that. So I do believe the success story is the people from the unconscious moderation team who have been doing the work. A lot of people through the community share, some people view it as a more personal process,
Mhm.
and we're here for it. We'll keep on putting content out and creating these tools so people can develop a different way to cope with life, really.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for that. So, Laura, where can listeners learn more about unconscious moderation, connect with you, the rest of the unconscious moderation team, and access a free trial?
Of course. So our main channel would be YouTube. We have a YouTube channel called Unconscious Moderation App. You can find it at App Official. That's our name. We also have it in TikTok and Instagram. We put content there about everything that we talked about today and a lot of different other topics. Those are the main sources of where people can reach us. And of course, we have the app at the Apple App Store. We have it on Google Play. We have a discount code for everyone who's listening, which is Laura UM20 for a 20% discount. We also have a 30-day free trial for people who want to start the process. And we're coming up with or developing some really cool updates of different fun pathway experiences and an intuitive drink pattern. And this is for it to be engaging, joyful, and that people actually see the notifications of the app and it's like, oh, this is my check-in. I'm not gonna delete this notification. I'm gonna go ahead and do my check-in. So definitely come join us, contact us. Someone will be helping you through the process, really.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate you sharing resources with us, offering a discount code for our listeners, and also giving us that access to free trial so we can just check it out and see how things are. And I really appreciate you speaking with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful speaking to you.
Absolutely. And thank you to our listeners for taking the time to join us. Make sure to follow us on our social media at Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and more at Behavioral Health Today. And if you like our show, please give us 5 stars and leave us a review. As always, the resources for this episode and an archive of all of our other episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. And we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today.
We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Triad Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.